Hello, this is the Safety Dojo training room here at TE. Be sure to come here to be trained on safety, chemicals, injury prevention, and all sorts of other things that are important for you to know and understand working here. Here at TE, we handle a variety of different toxic chemicals, and they are important for you to know what they are, what sort of toxins they have, and to understand how to acknowledge if you are experiencing an overexposure of any of these chemicals, so you can better take care of yourself and prevent any serious long-term injuries. There are all sorts of safety suggested guidelines here on how to safely do your job here at TE. If you ever need more understanding, find Lucy and she can give you a rundown on all these things. I'm going to be focusing today on soldering safety, which contains a lot of lead, and lead is a very toxic substance. The World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies lead as a group 2A carcinogen, which means it is probably carcinogenic to humans. Probably. The primary route of exposure to lead from soldering is ingestion of lead due to surface contamination. Skin contact with lead is in and of itself harmless, but lead dust on your hands can result in it being ingested if you don't wash your hands before eating, smoking, etc. This is why we recommend not eating, drinking, or storing food and beverage containers in soldering areas. Hand-to-mouth gestures also increase potential exposure. Health effects from short-term overexposure to lead equals abdominal pain, digestive problems, fatigue, headaches, irritability, loss of appetite, memory loss, pain or tingling in hands or feet. Health effects from chronic exposure to lead, reproductive problems, digestive problems, memory and concentration problems, muscle and joint pain, depression, irritability, and nausea. To avoid these health effects, it is important to keep work surfaces as clean as possible. Respiratory irritants. Solder flux containing rosin, also called colophony, generates visible fumes. Rosin's boiling point range starts as low as 100 Celsius and generates solvent vapor when heated to soldering temperatures. Rosin exposure can cause asthma or make existing asthmatic conditions worse. The fumes can also cause eye and upper respiratory tract. And here are some more things, but I'm going to show them to you in a video. Okay, so this is the soldering station. It is a lot to take in. You'll see in the photo all of the different things going on here. The black tube is the snorkel. That's the snorkel machine that will be inhaling the toxic fumes so you don't inhale it. That box there is the temperature gauge for the solder. Those are the metal plates that you will use for various relays. That is a bucket for cleaning and holding tools that are hot. Those are the work that's the work that you need, the relays. The very first thing you need to do when you're coming to the station is put on gloves. That is the absolute first thing you need to do when you come to the solder station is put on gloves. That is the solder solution. That is the temperature, 569. Very, very hot. So be careful when you are working with this. Now, you want to make sure that you keep the area clean, and you lay out a napkin there, and that is a tray basket that you will put the relays in after you have solder dipped them. And there is the work. I'm grabbing one tray there, pulling out the paper, checking to see what kind of relay it is. And here I show you the relay. And then you will need to figure out what plating you will need. But also I'm grabbing these Petri dishes, which is where I will be pouring the solder flux. And there's the solder flux right there. Again, very, very toxic substance, highly toxic. You do not want this on your skin. You do not want to inhale it. You don't want to get it on your clothes, because at the end of the day, you go home. And if you get this solder on your clothes, if you get the solder dust on your face, on your pants, on your shirts, and you go home and you have pets, you have children, and the first thing you do when you come home is love on your pets, love on your family, well, you are bringing that poison back home with you, and you are then poisoning your children and your pets. And these chemicals, they do not go away, and they build up over time. So it is important to understand that if you are working at this station for 8 hours a day, and potentially 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, you want to be very mindful on how you are handling this material, ensuring that you are not bringing home any of these contaminants, which is why safety gloves is the very first thing you need to put on. Now, you really only need a little bit of flux to do this job. You don't need to fill that whole Petri dish with a lot of flux, just a little bit. And that there is a magnet. And we use the magnet to hold the relay, just like that. And what you'll do is you'll dip the relay into the flux and then dip it into the solder pot. But first, we have to grab the correct plate. That's the one right there for those HF's relays. And you can always just grab a relay and make sure it fits. It fits. That's the one. That's the one. Now pay close attention to the metal plating there. I'm going to show you. You can see in the light how it shimmers. Also, look at my hands. See all of that on my hands? That is not dirt. That is dust. That is solder dust. And look at this metal plating. You see all that shining, glistening? That is solder dust, which I need you to understand that this is poisonous to you. And so it is important. Almost forgot to show you this as well. In addition to wearing the gloves, you want to wear these sleeves, because if those flakes get anywhere, they will get on those sleeves and not on your clothes, which will ensure that you do not bring any of the poison home. Now, back to the metal plate. It is covered in dried solder flux. And I'm showing you here a proper way to brush it. You don't want to brush scraping off the flux close to your face or holding it up. You want to stick the plate into the trash and brush downward as much as you can. You may have to go up and down a little bit to break it up, but you want to brush that dust into the garbage can. And when you are done, you put the metal plate on the solder pot, and look, it's kind of hard to tell, but that whole trash can is accumulated with solder flux dust. Now remember, that is poisonous. You don't want to breathe it, you don't want to get it on your clothes, and it flies everywhere. So be very careful on when you're handling this material. Not good stuff. Now, you put the metal plate. You just dip it. You don't need to cover it all. You really just need to just dip the flux, and boom. Now pay attention to the fumes. You can see that those fumes immediately were inhaled by that snorkel there, which is the black tube. And that snorkel inhales it and processes it through a filter, so you don't have to breathe in those chemicals. Now, after you are done solder dipping an entire tray of relays, what you'll do is come to this station, which is the degreaser, and put it in a basket. Now we're going to show you this degreaser is a whole other category of toxic substance. I encourage you to read the material safety data sheet on this so you understand. Do not inhale the vapors. Do not mess around with the chemicals in this degreaser. Very, very toxic. Always wear your safety protection. And if you see others that are not, do not monkey see, monkey do. This is toxic stuff. And if you decide to work here long term, well, you want to ensure that you live a long and healthy life. So that is the trigger to activate the hose, and you hose down and you're washing off the flux. Now this degreaser solution vaporizes very quickly. It dries and vaporizes very quickly. By the time I come back to the solder station, it would have already evaporated and completely dried. And then, when you have done all the work, you sign off on your work and you put it in there. Now, you put back the magnet, you grab the metal plate, and it's important to look at the metal plate. You can see that it is now covered in flux and solder material. Always clean your workstation when you are done and brush downward into the trash can, minimizing the spread of the flux material. And you'll put the plate in that tray to allow it to cool down before you put it away. Now I'm going to show you how to clean the top surface of the solder pot. You will just lightly scrape above the pot, and you will just scrape a very thin layer of the solder metal that is contaminated with flux. Now, my gloves are covered in that flux dust. You do not want to touch your face. You do not want to wave it around. You do not want to rub it on your clothes. I'm serious, folks. This is very poisonous stuff. And be mindful on how you take off your gloves, minimizing contacts, removing your gloves in a manner such as this, removing the sleeves and putting them back. And you have done a great job.